I'm Anna Paxton and I'm author of Vertebrate's new guidebook, Peak Bagging in the Peak District. So the book is a guide to bagging 121 of the finest summits in the Peak District in the most efficient way. And that involves 32 routes, and the routes are spread out all across the Peak District, from the Dark Peak, the White Peak, and down to the Southwest Peak. So the route we're on today is Above Grindleford. It's not the longest route in the book, it's 17 kilometres, but it's a really great route because there's plenty to see. So there's lots of variety in the Above Grindleford route. It starts from Grindleford station and makes its way along the river and through the Haywood, which is an ancient oak wood. And when you're down there, there's the chance to see kingfishers and heron, and in the woods there's red deer. If you come in the autumn, there's a really good chance that you're going to hear them roaring from the rutting. Once you come through the woods and you get to Froggatt, there's a really good wild swimming spot, very popular, and so if you're into that, it's a nice place to stop, perhaps go for a dip or a little swim. So from Froggatt Bridge, you're rising up, you're making that climb, approaching Eyam, and when you get to the top of the hill there, that's the point to stop, turn around and have a look at the view, because there's a really fantastic view from the top of the hill. You can see across the valley to the edges, right the way to Froggatt Edge, the Kerber, and from there you're heading into Eyam, and the village itself is so interesting. There's so much history there. So this is it's known as the Plague Village, and back in the 1600s, the people of the village really selflessly barricaded themselves in and cut themselves off from the world so that the plague didn't spread to the people in the surrounding areas. So while you're in the village, you can go to the church, and there's a display that will tell you all about what happened during the plague. And if you've got enough time, there's a museum and you can go and find out even more history. So there's only one peak on the Above Grindleford route, but it's a really good peak. So this is where we are on Sir William Hill. We've just come down in the dip out of the wind, but once you get to there, the high point of the route, there's a panoramic view. It's an Ethel and a trig, and it's a really nice place to stop and have a look around. So the Peak District Peak Bagging book is one of a series of 3 from Vertebrate, and the other 2 are the Wainwrights in the Lake District and the Munros in Scotland. So the challenge with this book was to think about what are the equivalent peaks in the Peak District, because we don't have one of those preset challenges that you have in Scotland or the lakes. So along with the team at Vertebrate, we gave this some thought, and the trig points across the Peak District are obvious peaks to aim for. They've got incredible views, that's why they're positioned there. And the other set of peaks are the Ethels. So the Ethels are a set of peaks across the Peak District. They're all over 400 metres. And they're named after Ethel Haythornthwaite. And Ethel is a person who was really fundamental in the establishment of the Peak District as the first national park. Ethel campaigned to protect these areas that we're able to walk around in now. There's 95 Ethels. They're not all within the boundaries of the Peak District, and they're not all on publicly accessible land. So this book visits all of those Ethels that we can all freely go to within the boundaries of the Peak District. There's a few other peaks in there that aren't Ethels, they aren't trigs, but they're just really nice, interesting points to go to, or incredible views. So while we're here above Grindleford, we've got this amazing panoramic view, and from here we can see quite a few of the other routes in the book. So one of the routes that we can see from here is the Easter Moors route, which goes across Longshore, and ironically the route doesn't have an Ethel in it, but it has a really strong connection to Ethel. So Ethel was an environmentalist and a campaigner, and she lived in Sheffield, but she really wanted to protect those special areas around the boundary of the city that we are now able to walk around in. And she was fundamental in campaigning to protect areas like Longshore, like Blackamoor. And so the Easter Moors route from the Peak Bagging book goes all around that area around Longshore. So you can visit Totley Moor and Kerber Edge, White Edge, and they're all the areas that Ethel wanted to make sure that we could go and look around now. I live in the Peak District, and I felt like I know the Peak District really well, but in the course of researching this book, I've discovered so many new areas. And one of the great things about these peak bagging books is that they include all the information that you need to take on each route. So the book will tell you where you can park, it will give you what 3 words. There is a map in the book, but you don't need to carry it around with you. You can download a GPX file, and as I've gone round the routes, I've picked out places where maybe you can have a drink. There might be a pub that does nice food, or there's a cafe you can stop at. So everything that you need to know before you go is there in the route for you. So there's information in the book all about the things that you'll find on the route. So for Above Grindleford, as well as telling you how to get there, because you can get there by bus, there's a train station right in the village, or there's an explanation with what 3 words about where to drive if you want to park. There's also information about places on the route where you can stop for refreshments. As it happens, Above Grindleford is a really good route for that, because there's the Maynard in Grindleford, which is a fantastic pub. There's pubs in Eyam. There's lovely, lovely cafes in Eyam, so definitely stop there for food. There's Grindleford Station Cafe, and Grindleford has its own community shop, which is really special. It's run to raise funds which go back to the village, and so you can stop there for cake and for tea, or to pick up any little bits of snacks that you need on the route. Quite often they've got fresh cakes and pastries.